Right, good morning, Year 5. Welcome back to another series of The Firework-Maker's Daughter. We're on chapter 7 today. That's the final chapter. Don't get too excited though. It is quite a long chapter. It will probably be divided into about 4 to 5 parts. That's how long it is. But a quick recap as to what happened last time. If you remember, Chulak and Lila managed to get to the king, and the white elephant. Chulak requested the king that what the white elephant speak to him alone, and we know that was done. And then by the end of that time, the king was convinced that Lao Chan can go free. However, him and Lila must win the firework competition in order for him to be set free and not killed. And on the side, we know that Chulak has also lost his job. So that's where we left off. And Lila and Lao Chand were reunited, and of course, they decided, we're going to win this competition, and that's as far as we got. So, the invited firework makers arrived the very next day, together with all the other famous artists and performers, the Chinese Scout and Guide Opera Company, Senor Archibaldo Gomez and his Filipino Mamba Orchestra, the Norwegian National Comedy Cowbell Players, and many others. So we get the idea that a lot of people from around the world are arriving. They all disembarked from the SS Indescribable with their luggage and their instruments and their costumes and began to rehearse at once. The first firework maker was Dr. Puffinflash from Heidelberg. I wonder if you know, just based on his name and from the location that he's from, where he's actually, what country he's actually from. It says Dr. Puffinflash from Heidelberg. He had invented a multi-stage rocket which exploded at a height of 2,000 feet into the shape of a gigantic Frankfurter sausage, while a huge instrument he'd invented played the Ride of the Valkyries. Herr Puffinflash had gone to immense trouble to prepare something just as spectacular for the New Year festival, and he supervised the unloading of his enormous equipment with scrupulous care. The second visiting firework maker was Signor Scorsini from Naples. I wonder if you know where he's from, what country Naples is. His family had been making fireworks for generations, and his speciality was noise. For this display, he had invented a full-scale representation of a battle at sea, featuring the noisiest fireworks in the world, and with King Neptune emerging from the water to see fair play and declare peace. Very, some of these are very, very good. The third and last firework maker was Colonel Sam Sparklington from Chicago. His display was called the greatest fireworks show in the galaxy. A little bit similar to the show, what do you call it? Greatest Showman. And it usually features Colonel Sparkington himself wearing a white Stetson hat and riding a horse. This time, it was rumored he had invented an especially exciting display involving something never before seen in the art of pyrotechnics. So we've got a picture of Colonel Sparkington from Chicago, definitely. So we've got three main firework makers, and we've got Lao Chen and Lila as well. What do you think so far? Does Lila and Lao Chan have a good chance of winning this competition? Because it seems these three firework makers have exceptional talent in the firework making skill. So have a little think. And while the three visiting firework makers were assembling their displays, Lao Chan and Lila were working on theirs. Time flew past. They barely slept, they scarcely washed, they hardly ate. They mixed vats of golden serpents. They ordered a ton and a half of flour salt. They invented something so new neither could think of a name for them until Lila said, "Foaming," and snapped her fingers. "Moss," said Lal Chand. "That's it!" Lila showed Lal Chand her delayed fuse method, but it didn't work until he added a bit of some spirit of saltpeter, and then it worked magnificently. It would let them set off 50 or 100 fireworks at once, which had previously been impossible. Then Lal Chand came up with a spectacular finale, but it depended on something even more impossible: burning a fuse under water. Lila solved that by thinking of caustic nalfat, and they tried it and it worked. And before they knew it, the day of the festival had arrived. So it seems that Lal Chan and Lila have been experimenting, and things that were previously impossible for firework makers to do, they seem to have solved a few of them. Now, the question is, can they make it so that it would impress the crowd? I wonder where Chulak is, Lila said vaguely, but her mind was really on the foaming moss. "I hope Hamlet's being treated well," said Lao Chen, but he was really thinking about the caustic Nalfa. And neither of them said anything about the king's decision, but they couldn't get it out of their minds. After a hasty sleep and a hurried breakfast, they loaded up the fried prawn seller's cart. He'd lent it to them because he was taking the day off, and trundled it through the streets to the royal park, where the displays were going to take place. The battock seller followed behind with another cart, and followed him came and behind him came the sandalwood carver from down the street with a third, all laden with fireworks. So I'm going to stop it there. So far in the story, we know that we're introduced to different firework makers that are going to be there. They sound very impressive, and we're also told that Lila and Lal Chand are very busy, experimenting. They don't want any sort of old rubbish sort of firework. They want new things that will certainly wow the crowd. So and it seems like the day of the festival is here, and I'm not sure if they're ready. We'll see, but they've put everything into the cart, and now they're taking it to the festival. Now, what do you think will happen? I'm really curious because it seems like they've got a lot of good ideas, but will it beat the professionals, the other three firework makers? Have a little think, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.